Good morning and welcome to Global News Update, your window into the stories shaping our world. I'm Happer Russell, and here are today's top headlines for Sunday, July 13th, 2025. We begin in the Middle East, where tragedy has struck again in Gaza. Israeli airstrikes near an aid distribution center in Rafah have killed at least 52 Palestinians, many of whom were seeking food amid worsening humanitarian conditions. The strikes come as ceasefire talks stall in Qatar, with Hamas rejecting Israeli proposals that would leave 40% of Gaza under military control. The United Nations reports that nearly 800 civilians have died in recent weeks while attempting to access food aid. Hospitals are overwhelmed, fuel is scarce, and aid routes remain blocked. Israeli officials maintain the strikes targeted Hamas militants, but eyewitnesses and rights groups describe the scenes as indiscriminate and devastating. Meanwhile, protests continue in Tel Aviv, where families of hostages are demanding urgent action from the Netanyahu government. Turning now to Washington, where President Donald Trump has announced sweeping new tariffs that are shaking global markets. Effective August 1st, a 30% tariff will be imposed on imports from the European Union and Mexico, with additional levies on copper and steel from other nations. Trump cited national security concerns and trade imbalances, calling the move a reset of America's global trade relationships. The EU has warned of retaliatory measures, while Mexico has called the tariffs unfair treatment. Economists fear the tariffs could disrupt supply chains and raise consumer prices. European leaders are scrambling to negotiate exemptions, and trade ministers are set to meet Monday to discuss next steps. In a dramatic escalation, Iran's parliament has passed a law suspending cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA. The move effectively bars inspectors from accessing Iran's nuclear sites and halts surveillance operations. Iranian officials say the decision is a response to recent Israeli and U.S. airstrikes on nuclear facilities, which they claim violated national sovereignty. IAEA Director Rafael Grossi has expressed concern, warning that the lack of oversight could destabilize nuclear diplomacy. Western powers are now urging Iran to reverse course, while Israel calls for the snapback of UN sanctions under the 2015 nuclear deal. In Eastern Europe, Russia has launched its largest aerial assault of the war, deploying over 600 drones and missiles in a single night. The strikes targeted western Ukrainian cities, including Lviv, Lutsk, and Chernivtsi, killing civilians and damaging infrastructure. Ukraine's air defenses intercepted hundreds of drones, but the scale of the attack has alarmed NATO allies. President Zelensky is calling for stronger sanctions and expedited delivery of air defense systems. Meanwhile, President Trump has pledged to send Patriot missiles and medium-range rockets to Ukraine, signaling a shift in U.S. policy. And finally, in Africa, anti-government protests in Kenya have turned deadly, with at least 31 people killed and hundreds arrested. The demonstrations, led by Gen Z activists, mark the anniversary of the Saba Saba movement, which ushered in multi-party democracy in 1990. Protesters are demanding accountability, economic reform, and an end to police brutality. Security forces responded with tear gas, water cannons, and live ammunition. Rights groups accuse the government of deploying armed gangs to disrupt peaceful protests, a claim authorities deny. President Ruto faces mounting pressure, but remains politically secure. As Kenya mourns its dead, the call for justice and reform grows louder. From the streets of Nairobi to the skies over Ukraine, today's headlines remind us of the fragility of peace and the urgency of action. We'll continue to follow these stories as they unfold. For more updates, stay with us throughout the day. I'm Happer Russell, and this has been Global News Update for today.